Okay, so this video is about Harvard referencing, and when you're Harvard referencing, you have to reference within your text. So when you're writing an essay, you have to reference the sources that you've used to tell the reader where you've got those sources, and also you have to compile a reference list after your essay or piece of work. So we're going to have a chat about referencing books and websites because they're the two main sources that you'll use, but it's easy to learn how to reference other sources. Just go online and find out how to do it if you're unsure. Right, so like I said, you have to reference in the text and in the reference list. So in the text, normally it involves the author and the date. So for example, if you notice here, Cree and Davis are the authors of a particular book. So Cree and Davis argued that child protection work is an area of social work, blah blah blah. You're using the name Cree and Davis, so after that, in brackets, you would put 2007, page 15, identify the page number because it's a direct quote, but if it's not a direct quote, the date alone is fine. If you don't use the author's name, at the end of the piece you've cited, Cree and Davis, 2007, page 15. Okay, so yeah, that's how you would reference in the text. There are differences, slight differences, depending on whether the book's got one author, two authors, three or more authors, etc. One author, so Curtin, 2009, states. If you're mentioning the name, straight afterwards, 2009 in brackets. If you're not mentioning the name, Curtin, 2009 in brackets. Two authors, as we've seen, just an and in between them. So Cree and Davis, brackets 2007, or brackets Cree and Davis 2007. Three or more authors, you need to use et al. So for example, Connor and two of his mates, or more than two of his mates, have written a book together. So O'Connor et al., which means and others, brackets 2006, or in brackets O'Connor et al. 2006. Just to reiterate, if you're mentioning the author's name, you just put in brackets the year. If you're not mentioning the author's name, in brackets put the author's name and the date. Right, in your reference list, this is how you reference a book. So it's fairly simple, and books are the easiest source to reference, and pretty soon, once you've done it a few times, you'll learn how to do it and you won't need to look up how to do it. So you put the author's second name followed by their first initial, then in brackets the year of the publication of the book, followed by the title, then the place that it was published in, and the publisher. So to reiterate, the second name of the author followed by the first initial, the date of publication, the title, the place where the book was published, and then the publisher. All this information can be found on the front cover of the book or in the first few pages. It's slightly different if it's two authors or if it's three or more authors, but it's relatively similar. Right, so yeah, this just explains how to do it. But like I said, in no time, particularly with books, you'll remember how to do it. You won't need to look back. The only other thing to mention is that you can put the edition number of the book if it's not the first edition. So this particular one is the second edition, so put the second edition. Referencing websites is slightly different, slightly more complicated and cumbersome, but again, it's just basically following a recipe, following a step-by-step process. One thing to remember is to avoid using certain sources, ones that lack credibility. So personal blogs, you could be using the blog of some random person who doesn't have any expertise in the area that you're talking about. Wikipedia is another thing. Forums such as Reddit, obviously essay writing websites, ukessays.com or whatever, and things like Simply Psychology. They're quite good for looking up information, but not particularly reputable when it comes to academic referencing. So this is how to reference internet sources. So in the text, it's pretty much the same as referencing a book. It's always author and date. So for example, if you're using a newspaper article from BBC News, the author could be BBC News. This particular one is Child Poverty Action Group 2009. So that's how you do it in the text. And this would be in your reference list. So the author. And the author, just use your judgment. Sometimes it won't be automatically clear. A lot of people think that you just put the link in your reference list, but that's not the case. So the format you follow is the author, followed by the date of publication. If you can't find the date on the website, just put this year's date. The title, then available at, and then you copy the link, and then the date that it's been accessed on. So in this case, 5th of the 9th 2017, which hasn't even been yet, so strange that they've accessed it on that date. And that's it. So I'll just show you how to do it. So got your essay, and you're writing about the recent cyber attacks on the NHS, and say a guy called Jones wrote a book on the cyber attacks on the NHS. So you're writing about Jones's work, so you'd say Jones 2017 stated that the attacks were wrong. Okay, so that's how you'd reference Jones's work in the text of your essay that you're writing. In your reference list, remember your reference list is alphabetical as well, so you'd put obviously from A to Z. So Jones, his first name is David, so Jones D 2017, the attacks were wrong. It's the title of his book. London, which is the place that it was published. Routledge is the publisher. So you've cited the source in your essay, and you've also cited the source in the reference list. So you also use an internet source. So it happens to be this source from the BBC website. So in this case, the author will be BBC News. You can see that it was published in 2017. So you know what date it was published, and you've got the link, so you can copy and paste that. So next bit of your essay, an article published on BBC News, and that's your author. You've mentioned them, so you don't need to put it in the brackets. 2017 states that A&D departments are fully open again. So you've referenced in the text, and now you need to reference in your reference list. So B comes before J, so you'll put it above J in the reference list. So BBC News, follow the PowerPoint on this side, you can compile your reference. BBC News 2017, title escapes my mind, so I'll go back to that. NHS cyber attack A&E's fully open again. So you've done the title, so then London, and then BBC News publisher, available at, and that's the link, so you copy the link, and then you put the access date, so the access on, and obviously I accessed it today, so the date is the 18th. And that's done. So there you have start of your essay and start of your reference list with 2 references in it. And if you want to learn how to access journals, another source of information, it's easy to do that on Google. Remember, the referencing type is Harvard, so there are different types of referencing. The one that we use, and probably the most used one, is called Harvard referencing. Thank you.